Welcome back to the Normal Sports Show. My name's Kyle Porter. Like I said in episode 0 of this show, everything we do here is going to be driven by my own curiosities, by what I'm thinking about, by what I'm interested in, by what questions I have. And as many of you probably know, there's nothing I think about more as it relates to golf than the Ryder Cup. And so in light of that, and because the 45th Ryder Cup is going to take place at Bethpage at the end of September, I invited Chris Solomon of No Lane Up on today's show to talk about our 5 favorite Ryder Cup moments since we've been paying attention to golf. Since we've been paying attention to all of this really closely. So that's roughly from the 2012 Ryder Cup onward. Solly and I are fellow defenders of both the United States team, or we have been on the No Lane Up podcast, as well as kind of, I guess, co-founders of the Strokes Gained Cabal, as many are calling it. So I'm sure other people love the Ryder Cup more than Solly and I do, but I don't know of them. I don't know who they are. Maybe Keegan, I guess. But Solly and I love the Ryder Cup. It's been really a really meaningful event for not only our careers and our, I guess, professional lives, but also our friendship. Like, that's kind of where a lot of the golf Twitter friendships were forged, was the 2016 Ryder Cup or like around that event. That sounds silly to say that 3 days in Minneapolis forged a bunch of friendships, but it was sort of the culmination of relationships that had been kind of building online. So 2012 onward is a little bit of an arbitrary window, but that's the parameter here. There's no other stipulations. We can pick big moments, winning moments, small moments, stuff that only we remember. The moments might be a single shot or an entire day. There's no real rules to taking a look at our 5 favorite Ryder Cup moments, other than what that time frame is. We're not going to go back to 1991 and look at that just because we weren't there. We don't really remember it that well. We could go back and look at it, but for today's exercise, for today's purposes, we're not going to. So thank you to Solly for coming on, and I hope you guys enjoy the show. Okay, Mr. Chris Solomon, I've waited, I think, it's 12 years to introduce you to my podcast, my show, finally. Welcome to the Normal Sports Show.
I was waiting for this to happen. I can't believe it took this long to happen. I just felt like every year, 27 to 20. Oh, where is Porter's podcast going to be? But here it is. I'm very, very happy. I probably could do a show with you from today onward through the end of the year and still probably have not paid back the debt to you that we have for all of your appearances on the No Laying Up podcast.
Well, it's been a ton of fun. I have enjoyed every minute of it. Do you remember when where we met?
Was it Hazeltine? Was that the first time we'd ever met in person?
It was in Dallas.
Oh, 2014.
Yes.
I was on a work trip and we went and played Stevens Park. That's exactly right. I remember it.
Stevens Park. I remember telling my wife, hey, I'm going to go play golf with this guy I met on the internet. And she was like, okay, I hope you make it back.
I remember you were like, I'm like a 20 handicap, and you like hit a hook off the first tee, and you hit a 4-iron from like 250 to like tap in birdie range, if I remember right, and made birdie on the opening hole. I was like, this son of a no way.
It's been man, it was fun. We're obviously talking about Ryder Cup moments here, but it was fun to relive, or just in doing the research for this, because so much of it has like intertwined our friendship and our professional relationship and everything else.
So many of these moments we're going to talk about involve like me looking over at you and you just making this face like, did you just see that? Like, there's so many of these moments. Like,
that's the thing. It was so hard to narrow this down to. So the way we're going to do this is we're gonna hold a draft. We're gonna have a draft. I just did my fantasy football draft last night. I'm in a drafting mood. So essentially, you're going to get first pick, and you're going to say, "Hey, I draft this moment," and then that moment is off the board. And we're doing this as our favorite moments since we've been covering or paying attention to the Ryder Cup. We're not going back to the 70s or the 80s or anything like that. We're doing kind of our experience, because I think a lot of people that listen or follow, it's also been their experience is they've been paying attention to the Ryder Cup for the last 15, 20 years, which is similar to us. So we've probably talked about all of these in other places, but I don't know that we've ever talked about all of them in the same place altogether.
That sounds about right. And it's really like the more you and I care about this event more than anyone should, right? And I think we can dive into maybe some of the reasons why that might be today, one, but it does just kind of like pull on this string, and you pull on it. It's like pulling a thread out of a sweater that you probably should just cut off. Like you pull on it and you're kind of like, well, why do I really care about the Ryder Cup? Well, in 2012 this happened and I was there and that's a big deal. But if you go back the year before, like Ricky Fowler, at 2010 at Celtic Manor, like that run and the 100 Mayhem chip, that was really interesting. But then the Paul Azinger thing, if you do that, that was really interesting. And then like you keep pulling on it and you end up all the way back at Brookline. Like everything always starts at Brookline, but that's inevitably where you end up.
For sure. There was a great clip of Matt Wallace, I'm sure you saw it, who had absolutely no chance to break into the boys club, the European boys club. But there was a clip of him over the weekend. We're taping this right after, what was that, the British Masters?
Mega Masters, yeah.
Yeah. And he was basically weeping over the fact, essentially it seemed like he was weeping over the fact that he knew he didn't do enough to make the Ryder Cup team. I don't know what he could have done to make the Ryder Cup team. I think he kind of knew going in that he wasn't going to make it because of, the little cabal that they've put together there.
Closed system.
Why is it like, what is it about? Like, I watched that clip and I was like, yeah, man, that's how I feel too. And I'm just some idiot that like doesn't even, I'm not even that close to the Ryder Cup. I didn't play college golf. I didn't play professional golf. What is it about that event that makes you feel like that does it for you?
I mean, it's kind of painting with a broad brush to just say, to do the thing, well, 103 weeks out of every 2 years, the guys play as individuals, and then for 1 week they play as a team. But like, there is something to that fact of the loneliness of professional golf. We've seen that with Scottie Scheffler, the number one player in the world, has alluded to like the fleeting feeling of just beating people's faces in with his golf clubs, like training his whole life to beat people's face in and just having the reward be rather meh, at the end of it. But to do something together, to be a part of a team, to be, have your, I think guys get a sense of self-worth and value out of the fact that their golf skill goes towards something bigger than themselves. Yeah. At least, especially on the European side. The U.S. side, we may, we could talk about that. I think those guys still want to win as individuals, but that's not what our topic of conversation is today. But you just see like them, getting to enjoy being part of a family, a part of a team, and they've harvested this incredible culture that people are beating down the door to want to be a part of that, just because they see how those guys probably get along, when it's not Ryder Cup week, when it's not even Ryder Cup year, how they all know each other from this event and have this common bond and all this. So, I mean, we all played team sports growing up. Like there's just part of why I didn't love golf when I was a kid, like love competitive golf, was like the lonely feeling. Even though you're on a golf team, like it was just your screw ups felt so much more personal than they do like when you miss a free throw in a basketball game because you feel like you can make up for it or whatever. I don't know. It just, there's something to being part of a team. Team sports kind of shaped my love of sports as a kid, and it's just so unique and rare in the game of golf that honestly, it goes back to Seve. Porter, it does. As much as we want to make fun of it, like you just go listen to Shane Ryan talk about the history of this thing and what Seve did for Team Europe and brought that to life. And I think that comes all the way through to Matt Wallace breaking down in tears, honestly.
Yeah, I think it's it is weird because it's the team aspect is definitely part of it, but if that was all of it, then the President's Cup would mean more and the live stuff would mean more. And it's like there's something like almost, there's an intangible with the Ryder Cup where the sum of it is more than the, whatever the saying is, more than the
parts,
right? Like there's just something magical about it. And that sounds very ethereal and stupid and treacly and whatever, but we go into these Ryder Cups and we think we know what's going to happen. And then you get Rory screaming in the parking lot and you're like, what the hell, man? Like, what is going on right now? Right. And you always get these moments, I think one of the reasons we love major championship golf is because it produces 24 moments throughout the week that we can talk about, that we can write about, that we can think about, that are meaningful outside of just who the winner is. And I think the Ryder Cup is very similar in that sense, in that it produces, and we're about to talk about some of them, so many moments throughout the week that have nothing to do with who won, right? I mean, so many of the moments we're going to talk about were from the losing team in, you know, in a given week, but they were unbelievable moments that we will remember for as long as we cover golf. And for whatever reason, the Ryder Cup seems to produce that, or seems to produce those moments more than a lot of the other events in sports.
Yeah, and you just get like a totally different look at all of these guys, right? You get a look at, we have Rory crying at Whistling Straits. Like we've experienced a lot of individual glory and pain on Rory's behalf, but like we've never seen him like do that, right? There's just a whole different, and you view somebody that like has a really, really, really good Ryder Cup differently, almost to like the rest of their career, right? Which like come to the top of mind, I was there in 2012 when Nicholas Colsaert shot the 62 that Friday afternoon. And like, I just don't think I'll ever forget that. Like I wouldn't have no other reason to remember Nicholas Colsaert's other than like he played in a Ryder Cup and dominated for one set, like just came out of nowhere and had an incredible session. Robert McIntyre in Rome, like didn't really play good, but played good enough, like and won both of his matches, his team matches. And you just, I don't know, when you're watching him the next year on the golf course, it's just through an entirely different lens.
Yeah, it totally is. Okay, we could talk for an hour about why the Ryder Cup is meaningful, but I do want to get to this draft. We're going to start with you. We're giving you the number one pick, 1-1. Don't take Jackson Holiday. So you're going to pick you're going to pick your favorite Ryder Cup moment, and that will be taken off the board, and then I'll go 2 and 3, so we'll just snake it back and forth all the way to 5 each.
I'm going to take this one because I know this would not come back to me the next go around. But the 8th hole at Hazeltine it's one of those sporting moments that I'm most happy that I was there for of my entire life. I don't know what moment would top it of like I was there in person to witness this, but walked every step of the way with Reed and Rory on that Sunday afternoon singles match. The outcome of the Ryder Cup was kind of over, but it was the opening match. It was what everyone was anticipating and wanting to see, Reed just acting like a maniac. And then they went on that stretch from the 5th to 8th hole, and it culminated with Rory making the 45-foot bomb. I can't hear you, levitating off the ground. Reed making the putt right back. I think me, you, Porter, KVV, all of us were up against the ropes there on that right side, if I remember right, or Porath, excuse me. And just the true chaos that ensued there, the screaming, the yelling. I mean, I think I screamed at some point just because it was, even though we were inside the ropes, I was like, nobody can hear me. Who cares? It was that fun, man. And just getting to walk. That was the first time ever walking inside the ropes at a Ryder Cup for me, and getting to walk like through from hole to hole with those guys and like hearing the yells. I was like, I'm probably not going to experience that as a player. I'm probably going to rule that out at this point because of the kids, the recent kids, of course. But like this is the closest I'm ever going to get to experiencing that. And like the hair on my arms was standing up. It was everything I loved about sports.
Yeah, and it's so unique because you don't walk with guys from first base to second base when they're right. Yeah. You don't run with guys while they're taking a punt back to the to like returning a punt for a touchdown. Like it's such a unique. Golf is, and this is why I started the business I did, but it's such a unique, weird other sport that is unique to cover as well in a lot of ways that we probably don't talk about. I went back, there's a great oral history that Megan Schuster did for The Ringer a couple of years ago, and I think we were both interviewed, a bunch of people were interviewed. But there's a quote from KVV. He said, I remember when that happened, he's talking about Rory hitting I think it was like a 40 or 45 footer. I remember when that happened, I just put my head in my notebook and just screamed as loud as I could, which was literally everybody's reaction on that hole. I couldn't even hear it because it was so loud. It was just letting off that energy. I've been to a couple of Olympics. I've been to 3 Super Bowls, a lot of NFL playoff games. But that right there was just, you knew it was as good as golf was going to get maybe in your lifetime. And I think that's true. And I think it was also this culmination of Patrick Reed as a character in the Ryder Cup, right? He had been building up at Glen Eagles, and then he had holed out with Spieth earlier in he had played very well at this was kind of their last hurrah with him and Spieth. And then he gets Rory. And we had kind of all talked about, like, what if Rory and Reed play? And then, of course they did. And it was just, it was like the culmination of so many different things in that week it was truly unbelievable.
Because Rory was such a showman at that Ryder Cup too. I mean, we'll get to some of those, a little later on as well. But like he was playing it up to the crowd as well, and that was just a great entertainment product. That was, that event. Because I honestly, as we went to go do this, like the last couple of Ryder Cups have been bigger stinkers than I thought of, than I realized. And a lot of my love for this event does come from 2016 at Hazeltine. I know that wasn't that close of a Ryder Cup, but that one had some moments, man. That really, really had some moments.
Yeah. Yeah. Especially on Sundays. We haven't gotten, I tweeted this the other day. We haven't gotten a truly great Sunday in probably since 2012. This one had this moment though. And it had Phil and Sergio also, shooting whatever, best ball 58 or whatever they shot. So, yeah, it was definitely a better Sunday than some of the other ones we've gotten. Okay, last pick of the first round. This one, shocker that you and I are going to go heavy on Rory moments in the Ryder Cup, but this one was really. We were standing next to each other at 2021 at Whistling Straits when Rory started crying, and I was, you probably remember this. I was really rattled by the moment. Like it was such a.
You started crying.
I don't think I cried.
No. I don't put in the paper that I cried. No.
It was such a jarring moment to me to see that because, like you said, like so much of our careers has intersected with his, which has been really beneficial for both of us. But I did not expect that. And he had played so badly that week. And so you're kind of like, is he checked out? Like he has these, he's obviously a very emotional player in person. And so he has these weird weeks and months where he's just like, what's going on? Whatever. But to realize what was happening in the aftermath of it, I just thought and to see what he said, because we're standing out there and he's being interviewed on TV, and you can't really get close enough to really hear what he's saying. And so I didn't really know what was going on, but you kind of hear people talk about like, oh, he said this and this is what's happening. And then to see it later, to hear the words later, you're like, oh my gosh, like this was an unbelievable moment. And that's when I ended up writing a piece called, I don't remember what it was titled, but it was about how the idea of like losing together is better than winning alone. And, that was one of my favorite things that I've ever written about golf anywhere, but specifically about the Ryder Cup. And then I wrote about this moment. I just want to read this in the Normal Sport book that we did that year. So that was the first Normal Sport book that we did. And I said, I'll just read this one little clip. I said, we all pressed in on the mini scrum once we realized what was happening. This famous, mega wealthy, always successful superstar of sport just giving you his soul on national television and letting you all the way inside, perhaps the most vulnerable moment of his career. I couldn't believe it when it was happening, and I still can't believe it happened. I watched him walk over and embrace Lowry, who finished up behind him, and saw these two men in a field by a lake in rural Wisconsin, who were once two boys in a field by a sea in rural Ireland, embrace and weep over where life had brought them. Then I saw him walk over to his wife, Erica, who hid it all behind lenses as big as dinner plates, and he completely fell apart. And I'll just never forget that moment. Like it wasn't even about golf. It wasn't anybody hitting a shot. It wasn't a winning moment, but it just epitomized the whole thing for me. And I'll remember sharing it with you and the other people that were there. And that was an all-timer.
I think too, maybe in the moment I didn't understand it as much as maybe I do now in terms of and this was when I was a kid, but I remember when I would let my teammates down, like in baseball games, when I'd have an error, when I'd strike out twice, like I would go back to the dugout and I'd cry. Like you're overwhelmed. Like again, I never cried on a golf course, like about my own game. I've been close recently, but it was just the fact that you failed your teammates and your friends, and you're just like not the version of yourself that you wanted to be. And knowing kind of what we know now about how sleepless those weeks are, those Ryder Cup weeks, and how quick your emotions are on the edge of your, of coming out when you haven't slept a whole lot. And
that's just for us.
And you're getting your brains beaten in. Like I kind of get it, right? And there's nowhere to hide. Like cameras are right there in front of you, and he cares a lot about the event, and that's just what adds another layer to it too. Is like, I mean, Scotty Scheffler cried. The guy hasn't lost anything over the last 4 years. Last time we saw him on a Ryder Cup stage, he's riding around the back of a cart after having to come in from the 12th hole. The 11th, after playing the 12th tee, the 11th hole, like a short ride back to the clubhouse in Rome because he lost 9 and 7. I was walking that golf course, walking out to a match and saw those guys drive by me. I'm like, what happened here? What in the world happened here? Why is Scotty Scheffler on the back of this cart crying? And it's what this event does to you.
It truly is. 9 and 7 is the new. They stepped in our line at Brookline. Like we get it. Like they lost 9 and 7. I got you. But yeah, this one was. It was amazing in it, and it was weird because it was obviously biggest blowout in Ryder Cup. Was it ever or modern? Right?
Modern, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, because I think they didn't used to go to 28. So biggest blowout in modern Ryder Cup history, but it still had meaning on Sunday. And I think, listen, like I said earlier, we haven't had a great Ryder Cup Sunday in a long time. But the great thing about the Ryder Cup is that it can still produce moments like this, even in blowouts. And you can kind of talk. You and I are very good at this. You can kind of talk yourself into like, well, if these 7 matches go your way, who knows what could happen here.
No matter how big the gap is on Sunday, there's always a between 7 and 15-minute window where you look at the board and you say, and that's what Medina has done to us, by the way, because it was like that at Medina. It was like, hey, if all of these things happen, you might be able to eke out a half-point win, and they all did at that one time. So we're forever going to hold on to that for every Sunday for no matter how big the blowouts get. Like, man, if it just goes this way, it could.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, my second pick. So first pick of the second round. I'm going to take this off the board because I don't think this is getting back to me. It was Patrick Reed dropping just napalm in Paris. I went back, Solly, and this obviously the end of this Ryder Cup was a disaster. There was a great Mickelson-Molinari moment that we might get to later, but the funniest part about all of this to me. So that was 2018. Reed hasn't been on a team since then, obviously. Part of it because he hasn't played as well, but part of it because of
this.
The funniest part to me is there's a New York Times article, Karen Krause, obviously her and Reed interacted. There was a thing in there about how this happened 1 hour after the press conferences.
So as soon as pressers, he's picking up the phone, or Lady J's picking up the phone. Yeah,
it was not 1 week, a month later. It was 1 hour, which is stunt. Like how does that, like logistically, how does that even? Aren't you in the locker room? So like, how does that even happen? The quotes, I'll read them. The issues, obviously, it's too good. The issues, obviously, with Jordan not wanting to play with me, Reed said, adding, I don't have any issue with Jordan. When it comes right down to it, I don't care if I like the person I'm paired with or if the person likes me, as long as it works and it sets up the team for success. He and I know how to make each other better. We know how to get the job done. Reed and Woods lost their first match against Fleetwood and Molinari, so he played with Tiger, after which Reed said, Woods apologized for letting him down, of course. He said, Reed said that he told him, we win together as a team and we lose together as a team. Very good, like instructing a 15-time major winner about how to conduct himself on the golf course. For some, there was a quote later, for someone as successful in the Ryder Cup as I am, I don't think it's smart to sit me twice. Reed said. I think he sat in both afternoons. The last thing was, every day I saw leave your egos at the door, Reed said, referring to the Europeans. He added, they do that better than us, which is pretty ironic considering some
it's
of these.
Amazing.
Just like, again, the Ryder Cup brings things out of you. Some of my friends and I say, like, whenever you're under pressure, whenever things are like turned up in your life, it makes you more of who you already, like more of who you are. Like it reveals or discloses more of who you already are. And I think that is a lot of what we're looking at here with Patrick Reed.
I want to find the scorecards. I'm desperately looking for them because I think over time it's been one of those things where we've exaggerated what he shot, which was like, I think it was close to 80, but over the years it's become like he shot 84 and then Tiger apologized to him. So by next year it probably will be 86. But I mean, he played horrifically. Not only that, Spieth paired up with Justin Thomas, of course, and they went 3-1 as a team. Like there was a reason to move Jordan Spieth off of playing with Patrick Reed. And also, Mr. Reed, you get to play with Tiger Woods, who just won the Tour Championship. This is not like hobbled Tiger Woods. Was he the number one player in the world at that point? Like he was.
No, but he was top 10 for sure.
Yeah, like you get to play with Tiger Woods in the Ryder Cup, and you're unhappy about this setup here. Like, oh, it was comical. Yeah, and you didn't get to play foursomes because you're one of the worst drivers of the golf ball. I think he was probably playing the PXG clubs at that point, like especially the driver. And he was a terrible driver of the golf ball, so they couldn't put him out there in foursomes. And you get to play four-ball with Tiger Woods. Like maybe just go play the golf. So yeah, this was going to be your last Ryder Cup, dude.
Yeah, that was the thing. It just killed me that it was 1 hour after. Like he was, and there was this other thing he said. I was looking at Jordan like I was about to light the room up like Phil in 2014. That was a direct quote from Reed. Like he said, like he was referencing the press conference that had just happened an hour earlier. I was looking at Jordan like I was about to light the room up like Phil in 2014 with obviously the Tom Watson thing. And he didn't, obviously, but then he did like an hour later.
Yeah, because maybe there, you don't have the cachet in the money in the bank here like somebody like Phil Mickelson might have to have those words mean something. Because when Phil did it, didn't come off just like sour grapes. It came off like, no, this guy was a terrible leader. With anything Reed's gonna say, it's gonna come off just complete sour grapes.
I remember reading this and thinking just like. I had to read it like 2 or 3 times. Like, am I comprehending this correctly?
It goes back to the saying we've had for a long time. When the Americans win and things go bad, get out like what the Europeans going to do? Blame the Americans. And when the Americans lose and things go poorly, what are the Americans going to do? Blame the Americans and just start eating. Before we've been able to get on our flights back home from the European Ryder Cups, things have exploded. Cantlay and Xander, that thing exploded. In Watson. Yeah.
And Xander. The last 3.
The last time they were united was 2010 when everybody was rallying to Hunter Mahan's defense and and supporting him in that presser.
Yeah, and trying to get a new rank gear contract for the next cup.
That was Lisa Pavin.
Yeah. So okay. So those 2 are off the board.
Okay. I've got a really important one to me that I think I can get in the last round because I don't think it's going to be top of the line for you. I don't know if I want to do two Rory things off the bat, but this one's not coming back. The bow at Hazeltine, which gets kind of a little bit forgotten because of the Reed Rory showdown that we get on that Sunday, but what Rory was doing those first couple days, just like single-handedly trying to, energize the European side, makes the eagle putt on 16. This was on Friday, or was this on Saturday?
No, this was on Friday.
This was on Friday, very first day, afternoon.
The Europeans got swept in the morning, and he said we had to bring it back in the afternoon, and it was to end. I think it was the last match out on the course.
And he makes the eagle on 16, which was the biggest crowd setting on that back 9. And he turns, bows to the crowd again, just playing the showman role, and then was asked about it afterwards and said, I bowed to them and said, "You're welcome for the show." It was peak entertainment. It was really, really, really good content. And he and Thomas Pieters were such a dynamic pairing, or the early part of that week, and they were kind of, the life of that team. And he was trying to put him on his back as best he could. That was just not a very good European team, but I'll remember that bow.
Yeah, I will too. There was a weird Austin Johnson interaction. DJ, they were playing DJ and was it DJ Brooks?
That was they played them on Saturday afternoon. I forget who they were playing.
That was you were involved in that as well.
That was a different one. I was not expecting.
There was like a weird Austin Johnson and Rory interaction. If you watch the video, it kind of looked like.
They're playing Kuchar and DJ in that afternoon match. Yeah,
Kuchar being on the Ryder Cup team.
Dude, that 2016 team. It was funny. Obviously, TC does his bits, and but he's reacting to the U.S. Ryder Cup team this year. Like, there's just no life in this team. Like, there's just there's no energy on this one. I just screenshot the bottom of the lineup in 2016. That team that waxed them. It starts off DJ, Spieth, Mickelson, Reed. All right, that's a good lively top 4. Then it goes Jimmy Walker, Koepka, Brant Snedeker, Zach Johnson, J.B. Holmes, Ricky Fowler, Matt Kuchar, Ryan Moore were the bottom 8 guys on the U.S. team that year.
Zero, none.
And it was electric.
There was a great quote from Darren Clark here. I went back and researched this one a little bit, but he said, he was asked about the bowing and are you okay with the antics and all that stuff. He said, roars is roars. If you're that good, you can do whatever you want. Which as And that was, he was feeling himself. Like, he had just come off the Tour Championship. What was interesting, he had not played that well, I think, at the majors that year, or like the first half of the year. And then he got with, I believe, Phil Kenyon. That was Phil Kenyon era, and just lit it up the second half and won, I think, a couple playoff events, won the Tour Championship, destroyed at the Ryder Cup. By the way, Rory has declared like 3 or 4 guys that are going to play in like 10 Ryder Cups. He did that with Peters. He's done it with Ludwig. I think there was like, okay, like we get it. And Peters hasn't not even come close to a Ryder Cup team since then.
No. Yeah, I remember he said something. He's like, I got my partner for the next 10 years, walking off one of the greens or something like that. And yeah, maybe not quite.
Yeah, not exactly. Okay, first pick of the third round, Sully.
I'm going to go back to one of the videos I still go back and watch from this day. And again, just kind of like we left this event. And I went home and told all of our guys, like, dude, Ryder Cups are insane. You got to go experience this in person. And Whistling Straits was not this on the opening tee shot. To tell you how much I think about this event, Porter, as well, I was having a dream literally last night about the opening tee shot at Bethpage and how muted it was. And the PGA of America accidentally scheduled the opening tee time to be in the dark. Anyways, it's a weird dream, but you were there as well.
A literal dream. Like, when we say we dream about the Ryder Cup, it is not figurative.
Well, and it was raining really hard too, and the U.S. had a bunch of guys get sick. So Wyndham Clark was paired up with Hank Lebioda. That was the pairing that, and they were, and Wyndham Clark had to borrow a rain glove from Adam Levine, the singer. Again, this is a really weird dream I had. Anyways, the first tee in 2016, we were there together in the back row. They give press like this spot in the back row, but like I think we got there maybe an hour and a half prior to the opening tee. Even like you didn't want to even be fighting the other press members for like a good view of that opening tee shot. And it was just a rambunctious Midwest crowd. Were not able to replicate this in Wisconsin. And it was so loud. There was so much cheering. There was actually a guy from Golf Channel, like doing a lot of the hype out there, like getting the crowd whipped up before they'd come back from break and the songs. There were European fans there. That was a big thing too. Like anytime the 20, 30% European fans that were there would try a chant of some kind, they'd get drowned out by the USA chant, like the I believe that we will win. Not the most creative stuff. Europe is better at coming up with creative stuff, but there was an energy there that morning that was just like, dude, I've been to golf events before. I've never been to anything remotely like this. That opening tee shot. I remember being so disappointed that Reed didn't pump up the crowd. I don't know. I thought he was absolutely going to do it. It was cold that morning. He came out in short sleeves, if you remember, and he was the only one that they was getting the offensive lineman comparisons to the guys at Lambeau Field or whatever. But that opening tee is something you couldn't even see. It was so foggy out there. You couldn't even see where these tee shots were landing, but people were just going ape. And I will vividly remember that day.
And I think in contrast to, I've only been to that one, and at least in the U.S., to that one and the Whistling Straits. And Whistling Straits was so disappointing compared to that one. Yeah. And I'm curious about, what was your experience in Paris? Was it like, was the first tee as good?
Oh, it was really good. I mean, they had massive grandstands up there, and that was the big thunderclap was the big thing that Europe had going that year, and it still wasn't like the dueling chants. And again, I go back to Rome when I knew it was over. I guess I knew it was over after the first session, but after the first session on Saturday morning and going into Saturday afternoon, we went back to the opening tee, and man, they were just singing and chanting, and they had that song, the USA is terrified and Europe's on fire, and the place was just rocking. I took a video of it. I think I posted it. It was just like, yeah, this is night. Like, you're just not coming back from that. And it's just one of those, like, Whistling Straits does stand out as like the only one that was like a really dull opening tee shot, other than when Bryson drove the green and made the eagle, because that was pretty electric.
Yeah, that was amazing. I was trying to look up. I remember I wrote this somewhere. I can't remember where, but I had like the last, I think it was I think it was Rome. I had like a literal dream about the Ryder Cup, like, and I wrote about it. I can't find it, so I wanted to I don't know if we're commiserating or brothers in arms there, but yeah, I've dreamed about the Ryder Cup as well. Yeah, I'm hopeful for the first tee at Bethpage. I don't know what we're going to get. Hopefully it doesn't involve Wyndham Clark and Hank Livioda and Adam Levine. There was also, and we got to say this, we've said it before, but there was a weird like U.S. energy in 2016 from a patriotic standpoint. I don't know if all that was good, but it definitely played in. And I think that was the most, other than some of the things Rory yelled at Bones in 2023, that was the most vile Ryder Cup I've ever been around in terms of like what was said to players and stuff. Whistling Straits wasn't like that.
No, I mean, Hazeltine was. I mean, if you remember, that was Danny Willett's brother penned the letter, like the satirical letter that absolutely nobody in the state of Minnesota took as satire and took it extremely personal. I just remember seeing like women in their 50s and 60s in the stands, just like, you want me to go eat a hot dog? Like just screaming at Danny Willett as if he wrote it himself. It was just like, it was uncomfortable. There was an energy out there that was kind of like because I was living abroad at the time, and all this, political changes are happening all over the world, and I'm telling everybody in Europe, like, nah, it's not going to happen. I came back from the Minnesota Ryder Cup. I was like, it might happen. Yeah, this might happen. Country's a little more upset than I remember when I left.
That was the two things, and I have not determined whether this is going to be a curse-free podcast, but it's not going to be right now, because the two things that I remember about that were the guy telling Rory to eat a dick. I was standing like 5 feet from him, and it was like weird and like kind of scary. And Rory had him thrown out, which was, I wanted to have him thrown out too. And then the other one was the Danny Willett in the presser, where he said, "How would you describe your week?" And he said, "Can you elaborate on that?" Really shit.
0-3 and just tackled beyond belief. Yeah, your brother might have given you that one. That one, that was only one way that was going to play out.
That was a tough. The last two Euro teams have been, and we don't need to get into 2025 matchups, but they haven't been. The 2016 team didn't have enough talent, and the 2021 team had too many guys that it was like they just got caught with their pants down. Like they had the Poulter, Westwood, like that whole crew, like one Ryder Cup too many. And so I am more concerned about 2025 because they're way better than I think those two teams.
They are. Yeah. I don't know what's going to happen. I really don't know what's going to happen. This one's so up in the air for me. So I tend to default to like the home team's probably going to win pretty handily, but I don't know.
Was that did you take 2 there? Yeah, you took.
I took my 2. Yep.
Okay, so I'm up. I'm going to go all the way back to 2014.
Dang it.
And I just love the press conferences and the
drama
afterwards. I'll never forget. This was when I first started covering golf, and I think I started my first full year was 2013. So I wasn't at this at Glen Eagles. Were you there?
I was not, no.
So this is when we both kind of first were getting into golf. And so I didn't really understand. I honestly, I didn't understand how everything worked. And so I remember right after the Ryder Cup ended, I wrote whatever I wrote, and then I went on a run. And I was listening to, I think I was listening to Golf Channel. I was just listening to the press conferences afterwards, which now I would like be locked into, or
right, because something always happens now,
or even there in person or whatever. So I'll never forget where I was in my neighborhood when I heard Phil, just in the most Phil way possible, throw Tom Watson under the bus. And he did it in that like snarky Phil, like, I don't know what you're talking about kind of way.
None of us were involved in any decision this week.
Yeah, but he was saying it like in such a sarcastic, but you had to, if you've never heard Phil, then maybe you don't know it's sarcastic type of way. I pulled, Bob Herrick had this for ESPN.com. Again, incredible stuff here. Four sources. So this is talking about just the Tom Watson captaincy. Four sources who witnessed the proceedings in the U.S. team room on Eagles said Watson took no responsibility for any shortcomings, scoffed at a gift that the U.S. team members gave him, and ridiculed several European team players, and also denigrated the Americans' play that afternoon. So this was on Saturday night. So this was leading into Sunday. You could have heard a pin drop in that room, said one of the people in attendance. He was pissed. It all went from there. Watson started by saying, according to all of the sources, "You stink at foursomes."
Not inaccurate, but
yeah, quite true. And a foreshadowing. He went through the Sunday singles pairings and ridiculed several members of the European side as he went through the matchups. This struck me as like a very old school, like people of Watson's era would have enjoyed stuff like this. And I think all these guys are like, what are we doing? Huh? Like, what's going on? And then what was really interesting, okay, so Watson was presented a gift by Furyk. People have heard the story, replica of the Ryder Cup trophy that was signed by every team member. Instead of thanking them, the source said Watson said the gift meant nothing to him if the players didn't get the real Ryder Cup on Sunday. Okay. And then the part that really intrigued me was there was a quote that said Phil went player by player. So Phil went up to the front of the room, got a chair, like sat down in a chair and turned his back to Watson, which was fascinating. He went player by player and told a story about each one source in the room said. It changed the tenor of the room from completely negative and heads down to let's give this a go tomorrow. He gave almost 80 degrees difference than what Tom did. Mickelson was trying to lead the team to protect the team there when he put himself under the gun pretty good on Sunday night. So talking about the actual press conference, he did that for a lot of people. It made me sad, Sully, that I think Mickelson would be I don't know if he'd be an amazing Ryder Cup captain and leader, but he would be a content bonanza for us. And it would be a ton of fun for him to be the Ryder Cup captain. So, part of this was like, that was crazy that happened. There's a lot of parallels. I saw Porat tweeted out the Bill Belichick, North Carolina, Tom Watson, USA comp. Spot on. Perfection. But it made me sad that Phil is not going to be a captain in the short term.
Yeah, I could see a world where the paralysis by analysis thing happens, kind of a Padraig Harrington situation in terms of that on the analytics side, and the decision-making side. But at the same time, the way he could potentially galvanize a room and get guys behind him, I think would have been fascinating to see unfold. Do you think it's completely out of the question that he would do one?
So I said this on your podcast. No, I don't. It can't be for a while though. I mean, I think that, time heals a lot of things. We've seen that with, how many times have we seen that in sports, but even in golf, like with some of the Tiger stuff and plenty of things that Phil himself has done. So I don't think it's impossible. I think there's a world in which Phil has this third career when he's like 63 of broadcasting and Ryder Cup captaining and stuff, but I don't know. He's almost 60. So it's not like time's a little bit running out for that third act to begin. And I think Live probably has to end before that begins.
It's so funny too, because in golf, like nobody really actually reconciles. It's just kind of like, you kind of done being mad about this? Yeah, let's just forget about it. Like that's kind of what all the Live guys are counting on, is just like this. You still mad about this? No. All right, let's just be friends again. We're not gonna talk about suing you or any of the stuff that went down, cooperating with the Justice Department, but you're not still mad about that, are you? Come on, let's just be friends. And it's just like on the good guys to like move past it. So I don't know. It seems like it would still be pretty far-fetched, but yeah, there was just like I'm sorry you took it that way, that I was, criticizing Tom Watson. No, that's not what I meant at all. I just thought we had a good thing going with Paul Azinger. I don't really know why we went away from it.
And the subtext is screaming like, that's exactly what I meant.
Yeah, 100%. Write that, right? You write that, right? You got that, right?
Okay, so that was my, I don't even know what round we're on. That was my third, I think that was my third selection. So my fourth one, so I have two left, you have two left. My fourth one is 2023, the 16th hole in Rome on that Saturday, the Cantlay hat stuff. I'll just never forget walking on that 16th hole toward the green with the Cantlay pairing. Who was he even with? I don't remember. Was it
my computer just assumes that I'm getting ready to go to a Wikipedia page about the Ryder Cup. So like all I gotta do is type like the year and just like, oh, you want the Ryder Cup here, right here. So this is Saturday afternoon. Cantlay and Wyndham Clark were playing together.
So they were playing, I think, Rory and Fitzpatrick.
And Fitz, yeah.
And Cantlay allegedly didn't know about the hat stuff, didn't know about the tweet, didn't know about everything that was going on. He's got people chanting at him about his bank account. Like, just basically the height of normal sportiness, like just the height of absurdity. Like, there's a ton of different things going on. Some people know, some people don't. I think that was the Rory spinny chip on 17 day. It was the it was the Joe LaCava, that whole deal. But I'll never forget being on 16 and just thinking like, how am I in this very spot at this very time in the Italian countryside, watching people scream at this ridiculous golfer from California. And it was just like it was both a crazy moment, but it was also a very meaningful one to me personally. And you have these, if you're at Ryder Cups and doing this like we are, you'll have these like once or twice every Ryder Cup of like, how did I end up here? Like, how is this my profession? How is this my life? And that for me was that moment, was walking 16 with that Cantlay pairing on Saturday at that Ryder Cup.
It was very surreal. It was such a different like in-person energy from some of the highlight moments that we've talked about, right? Of just like being galvanized by the sporting action right in front of us and the energy to like this off-course drama that has seeped its way back onto the course. And it was just a weird power of social media moment too, of just like, is this really happening? There's people up in the hospitality way up above us, just like waving their hats down at the action. And that was, I will not forget ever be. I think we have some videos as well for walking down that scene. And God, I can't believe we went to a Ryder Cup in Rome. Like, that was so wild.
That was part of it for me, because you could see out over the distance into the like fields and vineyard, whatever it was, and you're like, this is. It just, when you're at Hazeltine, you're at Whistling Straits, you're very like, okay, this is where I'm supposed to be, and this is in the, this is just like a kind of a normal thing to be at this event. And then in Rome, you're like, it felt almost otherworldly. You're like, I don't like, this is just crazy that I'm even out here. And then for everything that was happening, and I think for us, it was like, we've a lot of our career has been predicated on having social media success or doing things on social media. And it still didn't register with me like how powerful it could be, that it could upend a $150 million event or whatever is spent on the Ryder Cup, that one single tweet could change the entire tenor and direction of this event. Like, that to me was completely insane, and it was very surreal to be experiencing that.
And a tad scary, honestly, because you're on your phone, you're thinking like, a few people will read and like this or whatever, but like the fact that anything you say could turn into something like that was like, ooh, not gonna lie, I've withdrawn a little bit from social media. And I'm not saying from that date specifically, but just like, I don't know if I need to put all this stuff out there on social media anymore. It's a little uncomfy.
Okay, you've got one left.
I got two left, I thought, right? Because I closed the snake and then you closed with the last one. So I'm going to do one that I knew I could get here at the end, but I went to the Ryder Cup in Chicago in 2012 at Medina on the Friday. And I went and saw a little bit of the action early on. I saw Rory chip in, I think either on the third or fourth hole. I forget what it was, from behind the green. Had an unbelievable view of that. Tried to see what I could from the first tee, but couldn't see a whole lot. Learned pretty quickly, like, the in-person viewing, not the best. Let's go ahead to a hole. Let's camp out at one. And the 15th was a drivable par 4, and we had little handheld TVs that they were giving out if you had an American Express card. And you could watch the action on a little TV in your hand and just wait for guys to come through, have some drinks. It was great. Had a great view. And the U.S. won. All 4 U.S. teams that morning won the 15th hole, and I was there for that one. Just happened to have picked the perfect spot. And when Keegan made his putt and Pepsi was whipping the flag around his head, that was like, again, if we're pulling the string on why I love the Ryder Cup, like, witnessing that in person was just
the best.
I mean, when they blew, I was at home on Sunday watching on TV. When they blew it, I was despondent. It was like I bet $10,000 on it and they lost when I really had only bet 5. No, it was like I was sick to my stomach that they had lost that one. I didn't even know I cared that much about the U.S. Ryder Cup team, but until that moment, until they blew it. But experiencing that in person, I thought it was the coolest thing. We could when the day ended that day, we like the final match, we were in the fairway as the final match was concluding. I don't think they'll do that anymore. Like, but they had a rope set up, if I remember right. I remember watching that final match come up 18, and we're taking pictures in the 18th fairway at the end of that day. As a sports fan that hadn't got to experience a whole lot of stuff in person to that point, that was a really strong, lasting memory just for golf. And I mean, it can't be a coincidence. Like 5 months later, we started a golf Twitter account after that day, right? And maybe even less than that. Like it's had to have been a harbinger to starting this and setting out on this career, was experiencing that event in person.
Well, and I think that gets it. Two things. One, I think that gets it. Part of the reason you and I love this so much is because so many of these moments we can draw specific through lines to, like, these changed our career. Like, whether that's 2012 for you or 2016 for you or 2021 for me, writing the thing that I did about the Euro team, like that. Maybe it was 2%, but it changed my career a little bit.
Yeah.
And led me to writing the Normal Sport book, which led to this entire business starting, you know? And so I think that is a little bit of like, okay, maybe this means more to us than it does to just a casual fan of golf, because it has changed our careers and our lives in like serious ways. So I want to acknowledge that. And then two, I'm curious if you tell people that they should attend a Ryder Cup, because I've struggled with this. I tell people it's my favorite event to be at and to like be there in person for. But I also have to preface it by saying, like, I also am inside the ropes, and that's a very different experience than like what some fans are experiencing.
I tell people they should, as long as you don't go into the expectation that you're going to see a ton of golf, right? And to do like they do a better job now of having these jumbotrons all over the place, and they're good at shutting them off when the action comes to your hole. But like getting to a back nine hole where you can sit at a green and watch, you only get to watch 4 groups come through, but you can watch the rest of it on TV. And like you sit there and you make friends, you drink some beers, and you're watching on TV. You can cheer at the TV, and, your own group there at that hole. Like depending on where you're at, if it's a U.S. Ryder Cup and you're a U.S. fan, like when the U.S. makes a birdie on the screen, everybody erupts and it's fun. Like it's not, you're still at the sporting event even if you're not watching it right in front of you. Otherwise, you'd be at home watching it on your TV, not cheering it with people, and you're not going to see people come right by you. So you can't follow matches. That's the number one mistake people would try to make, is try to get out there and follow a match. Does not work. The numbers just don't work for that. If you get ahead to a hole, find a spot where you have a view of a TV, and make it like 16 at Hazeltine would have been a great spot for that. Camp out there, get a seat in the bleachers if you can, or get a front row seat on the ropes and wait for an hour or so, because they had a jumbotron there and you can watch that. Like there's still a lot of enjoyment to be had from that. Just if you want to see every golf shot, that's not the answer.
Totally. And I think one thing is like you can go to one and experience that if you get there early enough, and then you can jump over to whatever the hole is, 15, 16. I mean, I think about 16 at Whistling Straits, the huge jumbotron there. So you can watch 16. You can also watch what's happening on 17, 18, 15 on the jumbotron. So I think you're right. I think that is that's the play there.
Because I have experience. I went to Paris with no credential or anything, and it did try to experience that out on foot, and it's really, really, really challenging. If you were trying to cover the event, like it's really, really challenging. But if you're just going to go enjoy it, which I probably should have done instead of trying to cover that one, it can be quite a challenge.
Super enjoyable. Okay, your last selection here.
Oh, I don't know where I'm going to go with this. I guess I'll go back to the press conference after Hazeltine, which I was in a period of bliss where I thought the U.S. was just headed towards a decade of dominance, was I believe the phrase I used. And that team was unstoppable. Scottie Scheffler was the 12th man on that team. They won by the largest margin ever. And yeah, they were just dominating that press conference. They were having such a good time. There were great moments of, Bryson got a question and he's like, why are you singling me out? And Spieth hit him with like, cause you haven't been in media in a long time, which got a pretty big ovation. DJ was hammered drunk way too fast for how fast that interview happened. I remember Xander being like struggling to answer a question. He was like, to be honest, I didn't know we were getting ready to do media. Like he was blitzed out of his mind already. And it was a really fun Europe gets celebrated even when they lose. Their press conferences are great. The American ones are not great. After they lose, they're not fun. And this was just a good glimpse into these guys having some fun and seeing some personality.
Yeah, it was great. Being there, seeing it. The Spieth dig on Bryson was super underrated because all the other stuff like the Xander cigar and DJ saying absolutely and the Bryson and Brooks hugging, that was all like very obvious. The Spieth thing was very subtle, and I think people might have even missed it, but you haven't done media in a long time. That was the weird period where the Bryson Brooks thing was going on. Bryson wasn't talking. It was very, very strange. But yeah, that was the dream team. I mean, it's I remember joking that Scotty was, two things. One, I remember joking that the best player in the world and John Rahm were playing in a match on Sunday, and it turns out that Scotty actually was the best player in the world. I had no idea at the time. And then two, I remember standing on the bridge on the front nine with you, and you clipping a photo of the I think it was the '92 Dream Team and saying, "Should I send it yet? Should I send it yet?" And finally, I was like, "Yeah, you should send it." It was over early on Sunday.
I would just remember like standing in that little walkway and just like who was it that came by? Cantlay, I think, came by, and it was like Cantlay was like the 7th best player on that team, and he was like maybe the 7th best player in the world at that point. But it was just like, dude, I don't have a memory of Cantlay from this week. It was just Morikawa was at his peak. Berger was doing stuff. Finau, Big Tone. Koepka, it was just that team was out of control good.
I mean, the Finau Harris English thing was like an afterthought, and they were awesome. Like they were so good. And now with Harris English, you're like, we kind of need you to be really good at best.
Hope so.
Like that was kind of peak. I would say marriage of pedigree plus form for the U.S. Like all those guys have unbelievable pedigrees. Like. Yeah. There wasn't, and I don't mean this as derogatory because I think JJ Spawn's playing amazing golf, but he doesn't have a pedigree of a Cantlay or a Morikawa or somebody like that. And so the pedigree plus form was just outrageous that week.
Yeah.
And you said they were going to win how many in a row?
I just said it was going to be a decade of dominance. So
still in play.
It's in play. They got to win this one, then they got to go to Adair and win, and then come back and win, the last one home. Then that's 4 out of 5. I would call that a decade of dominance. Granted, I thought they were going to go to Rome and win, and they did not. I said after going into 2016 Ryder Cup, this is where I really drew the ire of the European fans. I said they were going to win 4 of the next 5, which if they win this one, that'll have been 3 out of 5, coming up 1 short. Then they obviously lost the 2 road ones. I thought they'd win 1 of the 2 road ones, and they just did not.
Neither was like close late.
No, they were not close. 4-0 on the opening day. I do wonder though, dude. I wonder if the sickness thing was a real thing. If half the team was on antibiotics, like they played a lot better towards the end of that week. They started the week so poorly. I wonder if that Ryder Cup could have gone differently. But whatever. It didn't.
Yeah. Okay. My last pick. I've got 3 here. I don't love any of them. I think I'll end it with this. There's a great Sean Zock tweet from, I wasn't there in Paris in 2018, but it's from Sunday, and it's that first tee that you talked about that looked like it was like straight up. I mean, it looked like just a wall of people, and they were doing the Viking clap and like all that stuff, and there's this kind of eerie chant that's going on. I think Rory and JT were off first, and as they're going down the first fairway, there's just this Rory, and it's kind of echoing, and it's just such a chilling video and audio of like this massive. I think he ended up getting beat. I think JT beat him or
in singles. JT beat him in singles, yeah.
2-1 or 1-up. I think they got to 18.
They did get to 18, but Rory made a mess of that one, yeah.
Yeah. But it was just such to me, it epitomized like what that first tee is and how, again, like we've been at first tees that haven't been good, but what it can be when it's like when it's really banging, when it's really like rocking. And that was just, I don't know. I have no idea what it's like to be in the arena for like to be one of those guys that's hearing that stuff, but it has to be the coolest. I mean, we started this podcast talking about like why do we love the Ryder Cup, and it's stuff like that where you're like, man, you don't get that anywhere else in golf, and it's incredibly special.
God, I hope we get a good one this year, man. We're due for one. I mean, I think back. We'll end it with this: the Keimer putt in 2012. Like what? And I had not gotten into covering golf yet. I was still working at an insurance company, running my Oklahoma State website, and I remember watching that when we were painting our living room. I'll never forget that weekend, and I remember feeling nervous for the Keimer putt, like everything that happened on Sunday, but specifically the Keimer putt, and like, oh, this is like knowing, just following sports, this is a big thing. I can't imagine what I would feel now if you got a 10-footer to win the Ryder Cup for either team. Yeah. It's too big. It can't come down to this. No way.
Yeah, exactly. Like having the history that we now have in covering the sport. I mean, I can't even, I want that. I want to feel what that's like. But I can't imagine what it would be like. It would be wild.
I'm still mad at Tiger for punting that 18th hole to not retain, at least tie the matches. Like that mattered. I'm sorry, that mattered.
It was weird, right?
So dumb.
It's like a 5 or 6 footer from Molinari.
Not quite that far, but I mean, he had like a 5-footer himself that he gassed and missed, and then just scooped Molinari's coin. It's just, I don't know. Just bury that putt in the back, stay focused, and get the tie. Like for your own individual record too. You don't want to be on record for that, but nobody ever talks about that.
Yeah, that was strange. Well, Solly, thank you for joining. Thanks for your time. We could do one of these every week and talk about the Ryder Cup.
Can we? Is that an offer? I'll take you up on that.
We have been doing one of these every week. So yeah, it was whenever I started this show, you were one of the first people I wanted to have on to talk about specifically about this. So appreciate you doing it. I hope people enjoy it. Our goal for this is to make some of these a little bit more evergreen so that you can go back to them and a little bit like you guys do with your deep dives of like, hey, this was a moment in time of this stuff kind of lives on. It's not, dead in a week or two, like some of the newsletters that we've been creating. So appreciate your time and looking forward to seeing you here in a few weeks.
Yep. Hopefully we can add to this list very soon.
I hope so too.